Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. Folks, this case that we're covering, it's sort of unprecedented. You don't see a case like this almost anywhere. I mean, obviously, you go back in history, you go back in time, you'd probably be able to find a case like this. But a sheriff of a small town shoots and kills a judge who apparently was a good friend of his. And not only does he shoot and kill this judge, but it's on video. So we all wonder, what is this Judge Mickey Stein's, what is his defense? The why? Why did he do this? And it's infrequent in these cases that we know the who right away. And we knew the who right away because, of course, it was caught on videotape. We know the how. He shot him, it appears, with a 9mm pistol right in his office. So we know the who and we know the how. We know the when. We know the what, but we don't know the why. We got some hints to the why, but I would imagine that the investigators, the closest to this case, they know the why. And we're all waiting to hear the why. And we can conjecture. I've watched some of the reports of some of the other YouTube content creators, some of the true crime people, and they really don't know the why. They're conjecturing. But that's what we do, and we don't have all the information. And in this case, the investigators were right on it. I wonder here if there was any reluctance from the investigators to really dig right in, because this is one of their own. This is a sheriff of a small town who is apparently extremely well loved in this town. And were the investigators assigned to this? Were they unable to give this their full effort? I don't know. That's what remains to be seen. Anyway, folks, hold on to your hats, hold on to your seats. You're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone, the police off-the-cuff zone.
There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
Folks, stand by for a word from our sponsor. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything sports betting. Every stat, matchup breakdown, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during games. With the largest catalog of odds on everything from football, Major League Baseball playoffs, National Hockey League, NBA, to political props. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet online. The game starts here. I have joining me tonight a fan favorite, a crowd favorite, absolutely one of my favorites, retired NYPD Sergeant Mike Geary, a professor at Albertus Magnus College in Connecticut, an attorney, all-around good guy. Welcome to the show, Professor Michael Geary.
Hey, William. Good evening. Good to see you. Welcome.
So formal, Mike, calling me William, but that's okay. We'll let that go.
Thank you.
But Mike, we've talked about this case. We've looked at this case. And of course, the most baffling thing about this case is right here. And that's a still taken of Sheriff Mickey Stein's pointing at what appears to be a 9mm handgun at Judge Mullins. In his chambers, Judge Mullins is sitting at the desk smoking a cigarette, apparently drinking a cup of coffee. Just inexplicable. I mean, caught on videotape killing a judge. The why? What's the why, Mike?
Billy, this is what's driving me crazy over this case. We'll learn about the why from probably the defense when they put in a request for an alibi. They'll interpose that alibi probably sometime in the early spring, I would imagine. But up until then, it's really just speculation. That still really, that one picture tells 1,000 words. You look at the judge there, and he's sitting there having a cup of coffee. He's seated. He's smoking a cigarette. There's no aggression whatsoever. All the aggression is coming from the shooter here. So it's really going to be very difficult to come up with some sort of, overwhelming, situation that the sheriff couldn't handle some other way. It's not like he was challenged to a fist fight and it got out of control, that the judge came at him with like something. And it really looks awful. The more you see this, these stills, these pictures, you take a look at the video, it's really perplexing. Why? People have really not hesitated, but they really had said a lot of things about, oh, there must be something on that phone. It may not be. We don't know. It's all conjecture, but it will come out slowly and in dribs and drabs, but probably not for a while now. So we have to just be patient and try to do the best we can.
Mike, one of the things also that we learned from the investigators on this is that the judge and Sheriff Steins and a group of people were out to lunch before this incident. And something happened, or someone was overheard, heard the judge say to Sheriff Steins, do we need to speak privately about this? Do we need to go into and have a private meeting into my chambers? So the meeting was a prearranged meeting, but we're going to conjecture. We're going to talk about some of the things that it could be. But before we get to that, I'm going to play this little cut from Ashley Banfield on News Nation.
When you're looking at first-degree murder, complete with a possible...
That's feeding, so I don't know why this is happening, but...
death sentence. And there is no denying that you
Banfield's not feeding too well
actually
tonight.
did the thing. You better have a really good explanation, or at least you better have a reasonable explanation. And now, for the first time, the lawyer representing former Eastern Kentucky Sheriff Mickey Steins.
The lawyer's going to talk about his representation of Mickey Steins, what they intend to raise as a defense. I'm sorry, this
says that his client does, in fact, have an explanation. I think I know that you know the case, right? 3 weeks ago, Steins, the sheriff, asked to speak privately to his longtime friend, the judge, District Judge Kevin Mullins, and he cleared everybody out of Judge Mullins' chambers. That's when surveillance video picks up and shows the sheriff making a phone call on his cell phone, but then borrows the judge's phone, does something, after which he pulls out his gun and shoots Mullins 8 times, even after the judge had fallen to the floor. Bullets kept going. Prosecutor said this is premeditated. Murder one, period, death penalty. But the defense lawyer says, and I want to read this like verbatim here because that's important. For us, the highest level of culpability should be manslaughter, based on the partial defense of extreme emotional disturbance. We believe there had to be a compelling reason
for Sheriff Steins to feel like he had to take action. So that's what the defense is going to go with here. I'm going to cut this out because it's not feeding right. So the attorney, what he intends to do as a defense, and a tough defense when you have videotape showing him killing the judge, but he intends to go with as a defense, extreme emotional disturbance. And that is in the statute of manslaughter and takes it away from murder one. So what could this be? Everyone's talking about the two phones, the two cell phones. Sheriff Mickey Steins from the judge's office calls his daughter. She doesn't answer the phone. Then he uses the judge's phone to call his daughter, unknown whether she answers the phone or not. But after that attempt at a phone call, Sheriff Mickey Steins shoots the judge. And when you watch the videotape and the judges, it's a natural reaction when someone points a gun at you to put your hands up like that. You're unarmed, and then the judge trying to hide behind the desk. He's basically executed in his own chambers. Disturbing, absolutely disturbing video. So the conjecture is, was the judge having an inappropriate relationship with Sheriff Mickey Steins' 17-year-old daughter? Or, as others have been saying, was the judge having an affair with Sheriff Mickey Steins' wife? This is all conjecture. There's absolutely no proof to it right now. And those are the two possibilities. The other thing was, based on what Sheriff Stein said, was he claimed that they were trying to kidnap his wife and his daughter. Who are the they? We don't know the they in that. And quite disturbing, right? So he says that, he makes that statement. He says, just make sure I get a fair shake, basically. He said that to one of the investigators. So we could extrapolate all kinds of different things, but we don't know the facts. Where will the facts come from? Well, the facts are going to come from digital evidence. Again, digital evidence, the cell phones. What is on the cell phones, both Sheriff Mickey Stein's cell phone and Judge Kevin Mullen's cell phone, as well as Sheriff Stein's wife and Sheriff Stein's 17-year-old daughter. Search warrants must be obtained for all of those phones, and perhaps that will tell us a story as to what happened here, Mike.
Yeah, Billy, it's going to be a combination of, like you say, it's going to be some digital technology evidence with the phones. But I'm also thinking it could go back about 72 hours before the shooting happened, when Sheriff Stein was deposed in the lawsuit, naming where that deputy who had sexually abused several women in the judge's chambers, after hours, when there was no security around, and he was charged with sexual abuse. He did time in prison, or he's out on parole now, I think. But that officer and that deputy and Steins, because he was the head of the county police, he's named as a defendant. Now, he was deposed, and during the deposition, 72 hours before the shooting, his public affect was very much off. He seemed like he couldn't remember things. He had to take frequent breaks. To me, it sounds like someone who is very, very stressed out, because that's a sign of stress, being forgetful and things like that. So I'm thinking 72 hours out, he's retiring. He told everybody he wasn't going to run again. And I think perhaps he's worried about how this is going to affect him and how he's viewed in the community. Maybe it's going to affect his job. What happens if he is found negligent for supervising that officer? Is the county going to pay, or is the county not going to indemnify him, and he has to pay, through out of his own pocket, and be held, civilly liable for that monetary judgment? And then perhaps add that to maybe some sort of shaky relations between his wife, and his daughter. And maybe there's a side bit with, we think perhaps that Judge Mullins maybe was even just giving some basic legal advice to the wife on how to go through a divorce or something like that. And to me, what I think, there's a whole group of things, whole series of emergencies that happened in the sheriff's life. And this was the straw that broke the camel's back. Whatever was going on in that office. Because remember, he said, we're going to meet. They agreed to meet over lunch several hours later, maybe an hour later, in the judge's chambers. So it wasn't something that this wasn't a meeting that just happened spontaneously. This was a pre-planned meeting, and it didn't go obviously the way the judge thought it would go, and maybe it didn't go the way the sheriff thought it would go. But the thing is, it has to, for him to prevail at trial, it would have to be something, whatever happened, would have to be so totally overwhelming that he lost all ability to control himself. I don't know if it's there, but we can conjecture all we want. But you got to look at all of those facts, in context. The shooting has to occur in the context of numerous other things that had occurred previously in Mickey Stein's life in the previous week.
Mike, this is on the screen right now. Is the civil lawsuit?
Right.
Ben Fields was the deputy who worked for Sheriff Steins. Ben Fields, individually and in his official capacity as a deputy sheriff with the Letcher County Sheriff's Department, and Mickey Steins, Letcher County Sheriff. They're the defendants, and they list who the complainant is. But this whole civil lawsuit, it alleges that the defendant, Ben Fields, is liable under state law. Plaintiff asserts that defendant Fields, in his individual and official capacities, violated plaintiff's rights secured by the 4th and 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Basically, it was there was some sexual allegations. There was a rape, a sexual abuse, and it occurred inside Judge Mullen's chambers. Which, how might that be something that could this be interconnected to something else that we don't know? Could there be any nefarious activity by Judge Mullins? And in regards to Sheriff Steins, why didn't he know about this? Why was this lack of supervision? How did he not know about these allegations? Apparently this wasn't the first time that this had occurred with this Deputy Fields. And this time, of course, he was caught and he went to prison. He seemed like he got an extremely light sentence for the crimes that he committed. And now this, of course, is a civil suit, which is now going after Sheriff Steins, as well as Ben Fields, who was who was arrested and who was the first subject of this lawsuit.
Yeah, Billy, when I was thinking about it the other day, we talked about it a little bit, if there was some other issues going on with this deputy, maybe other misconduct that wasn't addressed. And that's why an attorney would love to get that officer's, disciplinary file, their personnel file. And if this complaint came in to the sheriff, how did he handle it when it originally came in? Did it come in as a letter from the woman? Did it come from the attorney's office? Did it come originally just as a complaint? How did it come in? How did he handle it? If it was a complaint, like a civilian complaint kind of thing, was it thrown out? So he may be seriously was distressed by the fact that he could be looking at monetary damages, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe $1 million. How is he going to pay it? Is the county going to indemnify him? They may give him an attorney, but maybe are they going to indemnify him for any kind of monetary damages? He may be seeing like his world crumbling as it refers to his job as a law enforcement officer. He's been a law enforcement officer for like probably 20 years, and now suddenly he's retiring, and this is how he's going out the door. So there may be some sort of track record of maybe not handling disciplinary matters. They're distasteful. You and I know how that is in the police department, but they're necessary. It has to be done. So he may have thought, maybe correctly, maybe incorrectly, that he was going to be on the hook for so much money that he could never possibly get out from underneath it. And looking at the end of his career completely in shambles. You never know.
Absolutely. Rebecca Bruce, thank you so much for the $5 super sticker. Folks, all you folks that are new to the chat, thank you so much. I see some Claudia Lanzerstoffer, I hope I pronounced that correctly, gifted a police off the cuff membership. Thank you so much. Very generous of you to do that. And folks, if you're new and you're not subscribed, the subscribe button is right on the screen. Just hit that red subscribe button and you'll be a member of the Police Off the Cuff YouTube family. We appreciate all of our new fans. There's Rebecca Bruce, who happens to be a new member also. Thank you so much. Also, if you want to contribute to the show financially, we have a Patreon with 4 different levels, and we also have a YouTube channel membership with, count them, 5 different levels. We appreciate all you guys in our fan group. Claudia Lanzerstoffer, again, thank you for the £2 super sticker. Very much appreciated. Hope I'm saying these names right. Some of these names aren't so easy to say. I got practice when I worked as a professor. I got to practice on all the names, reading the attendance. This is local Fox 56 News. I want to play this on the screen here.
A case that's gripped not just Kentuckians, but people across the nation from the beginning, when former Letcher County Sheriff Sean Mickey Steins allegedly shot and killed District Judge Kevin Mullins in his chambers on September 19th. Kylie Hill sat down with the attorney representing Steins to learn more about his client's mindset. It's our top story at 6:30.
The video itself is disturbing and difficult to watch for anyone.
27 seconds of video showing the brutal murder of District Judge Kevin Mullins. But according to the defense attorney for former Letcher County Sheriff Sean Mickey Steins, the man accused of murdering Mullins, those 27 seconds lack the full story.
I think that we need to see the entire video and the other evidence that can put that into context. And without that context, the portion that we saw, it does not stand alone. There has to be an understanding of the full story.
I sat down with Jeremy Bartley earlier, who says the fatal shooting wasn't planned.
I specifically asked the officer if there was any indication in his investigation that this was in any way planned, and he indicated no.
He believes the highest level of culpability should be manslaughter.
What we're saying is that is based upon the facts that we know on so far, that should be the ceiling. We will mount a full defense. Extreme emotional disturbance, as you know, is a partial defense, right? But we intend to pair that with another defense.
Obviously, since this incident, a lot of questions have been raised. One that has caused a lot of confusion at the time of the preliminary hearing is whether or not Stein's daughter's phone number was a saved contact in Mullins' phone.
My question when I asked was the number in the phone. I was referencing a recent call. I didn't specifically ask if it was a contact. If they say it is not, then I'll take that at face value today.
Another pressing question was the federal lawsuit where Steins was accused of failing to investigate allegations that one of his deputies repeatedly sexually abused a woman in Mullins' chambers, a reason for this crime.
One must wonder if they were not related. But again, we await to see the evidence and the completion of the state's investigation and the completion of our independent investigation.
He says they're hoping for an acquittal.
We are going to put on a full defense and urge for an acquittal if and when this case goes in front of a jury, of a full acquittal. I'm not going to announce today what we believe that defense will be, although everyone wants to know.
Kylie Hill, Fox 56 News.
So interesting. But, you know, Mike, as much as the defense attorney says he's already planning this defense of extreme emotional disturbance, there's other evidence that this was premeditated. And how is that so? Well, he went to lunch with the judge. He wasn't himself. Other people can testify to that. The judge was overheard saying to him, do we need to have a private meeting in regards to this in my chambers? So right there, it seems a little bit premeditated. And then when he gets to the office, all the phone play All right. And someone just raised the issue in the chat that after the second shot, I'll find, there we go, Death Wave from the chat. Hey, everyone. Good to see you, Death Wave. You could see the phone light up on the desk. So an incoming call was coming in, apparently, to the judge's phone. So questions I have, when the sheriff made the call from his phone or from the judge's phone, did anyone answer? Did anyone answer? And you heard the attorney all concerned about, was Sheriff Stein's daughter's number saved in the judge's phone as a contact, or was it a recently called number? That would make a big difference. So what's being implied, was there some relationship between Judge Mullins and Sheriff Stein's daughter that would cause him to just go off the rails and basically lose his mind and shoot this man who was not only a judge, but his friend? Shoots and kills him right in his chambers. I mean, on its face, that would seem, yes, extreme emotional disturbance. Who would do that? But there's also signs of premeditation, Mike.
Absolutely, Billy. It's very bizarre. It's fairly unique kind of situation. So you could say that from the defense attorney's point of view, that the intent to kill was not really formed anytime during the day, anytime at lunch, anytime afterwards. That Steins went into Mullins' office to talk to him, and somewhere in that brief period of time, it went from 0 to 100. And he was overwhelmed, and he killed the judge. That's what seems to be very, very confident that he can show, that there was something that overwhelmed him rather quickly. And then but on the other hand, he talked about he wants a full acquittal. He could hope for that, but that's like hoping that there really is a tooth fairy. He's not going to get a full acquittal because he's facing murder too. If the jury would ever believe that there was some overwhelming, emotional impact of something that happened, he would get manslaughter. He wouldn't be acquitted. That does not acquit you of a crime. It lowers the crime from an intentional murder to a homicide. I'm sorry, to a manslaughter. I think that he is a defense attorney, but he also has to remember, and I think it would be, we should tell people that, intentional murder, the mens rea, the development of the criminal mind, the criminal intent, doesn't need weeks or months or hours. You could develop a criminal intent to kill somebody in 30 seconds. So I don't think that he should be very, at this point, very confident. I think he's hoping that whatever he knows that he can present in court from what his client, the Steins, told him, that he can convince a jury that it was so overwhelming that those people on that jury would think, oh my God, yeah, if I was in that situation, that's overwhelming. Yeah, I would just take out a gun and shoot somebody. That's a huge uphill battle for our defense attorney. We'll see, but he seems very confident. I'm surprised, but he seems very confident at this point.
Absolutely. Candace Breeze from the chat, you don't go into the judge's phone and snatch the phone. I think you mean the judge's chambers and snatch the phone. I think that's what you mean. I could be wrong, but well, the thing was, and then you followed it up with the sheriff had knowledge. Very possible. The sheriff went in there with a lot of anger, obviously, right? Snatches up the judge's phone and calls his daughter with the number that was either in the phone as a contact. They seem to think that it wasn't, or that it had been previously called, and he called using the judge's phone. My question is also, and we don't know the answer to this, did the judge's daughter answer? Could that be what sent the sheriff over the top? Could that be? Could she have answered the phone and possibly in an inappropriate fashion? And that could have just sent them off the rails, right? So many of these things we don't know. And apparently after the second shot, there was an incoming call because you could see one of the phones on the desk light up. So someone was calling back. Was the daughter calling back the judge? Who she thought was the judge was actually her father using the judge's phone.
Right.
This is Vinnie Politan. Let me play a little bit of this. We get a really excellent view of this.
A lot of the time, they don't. They just wear the robe when they leave chambers and go on to the bench for an official proceeding. So that's kind of interesting that the robe is on at this moment. That could tell us a little bit about the timeline. Also, judge is smoking a cigarette and apparently drinking maybe some coffee. I don't know. So he seems that he's comfortable and relaxed for this private meeting that he's having with the sheriff. Now, what you have to understand is at this moment, the sheriff is standing up. From all the testimony and what we understand from what's happening before that is that he's seated in this chair. And let me just get rid of myself for a second. And you can see the two chairs there, okay? So he was in one of those chairs, stands up, and in his right hand right at this moment, the judge can see as he's looking, the judge does have his weapon in his hand.
The sheriff does.
So I see what the judge is doing here, but let's continue to watch everything that happens here. And right here, the shots are being fired. This is like one frame before the first shot is fired, and you can see the judge trying to get away, trying to shield himself, trying to protect himself at this moment, but obviously not successfully. So the video exists. The video exists. Again, remember what I'm talking about here is what is the sheriff's defense to all of this? What could his defense possibly be if this is what's happening right now? So let's continue. Okay. Now, the judge is down, but the judge is still moving. And you can see, once again, the judge is moving, but sees what's happening. And again, there goes Mickey Steins getting closer, 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 and finally firing shots once again. Then he comes back around, is about to leave, but notices what's happening under the desk. The judge trying to go for cover, head for cover once again. And if you look under the desk, you won't see it because we've blurred it out, YouTube. We've blurred it out. But the judge, again, crawling under the desk moves, trying to shield and protect himself. But before he leaves, and he opened the door like he was going to leave, but then he stops. And once again, shots are fired. The judge is visible under the desk at this moment. So the sheriff really has to get down and crouch to once again go after the judge. To me, it's so sad, but it's crazy if you think about it. It's absolutely crazy if you think about it because he's the sheriff. He's actually the sheriff. He knows that there's a camera there. Why does he know there's a camera there?
You know, like this is so disturbing because it's not. You fire a gun at someone 8 times. Your intention is to cause their death, not to wound them. You shot this guy, and he looks under the desk because he sees him moving. He sees the desk moving, so he wants to make sure that he comes back, gives the coup de grace, make sure that the judge is dead. Extreme emotional disturbance or premeditated murder? To me, it's premeditated murder. How could you be that mad at something, that crazy? You go off the hinges when you clearly planned this. The meeting in the judge's office was planned right from the judge's mouth. Do we need to speak privately in my chambers? Yeah. So, and then to go in there and all the stuff with the phone play, you know, that's a little bit amazing too. It's like, what's with all the phone play? What is he doing? What is he doing with that? It's your thoughts.
Billy, as I was watching that with Billy Politan, I looked up in the chat, and Nina WWD raised the issue of the number of shots, and I was thinking the exact same thing. So Nina, excellent thought. I was thinking the same thing. If you want to say this was extreme emotional duress, and the sheriff fired one shot and freaked out, I could say, okay, maybe. But he's going around. Every time the desk is moving, he's shooting at the judge. In fact, you can see at one point, he's leaning way over the desk, trying to shoot the judge rather than, from where his legs would be. And then he walked around about to leave, and he shoots him a couple more times. Absolutely. To me, that actually hurts Mickey Steins in his defense, because if it was one shot and it was just one insane second of madness, that's one thing. This went on for a couple of seconds. He's actually hunting the judge down. I agree, Billy, 100% with you and Nina. He's hunting the judge down, trying to kill him. Like you say, deliver the coup de grace, kill him right there. To me, that's really cold-blooded murder.
There's some other things in Vinnie Politan's investigation. I'll play a little bit more of this here.
Back this up. What do we know? What did the testimony talk about in this case? By the way, we're over 4,000 live viewers right now already, right out of the box. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Going to ring.
This is what they're talking about on the second shot. Watch the phone in the middle of the deck.
Second set of shots. Okay? Keep your eye on the phone. Keep your eye on the little screen. Because once again, goes around, goes around, goes around. We freeze it. YouTuber freezing it. But now look. As he starts to go around, now someone is calling the phone. Someone is calling the phone. Let me go back to that so you can see it. You can see the phone is now lit up. Okay. Why is that important? Is his daughter calling him back? Did he leave a message? Is someone trying to find out why a call was made? Is what exactly is going on? Like we don't have these pieces of information yet. This is the information that will be extremely relevant to the sheriff's defense. I believe it's a lot of it is focused on the phone, right? Because he makes the call just before he does what he does here. But did he get through? Did the conversation end and then someone's trying to get back to him? Is someone trying to
he's just conjecturing, just like we were. And that's one of the questions we had was, did the phone call go through from the judge's phone to the daughter? We don't know. The other thing is, like a million people do when they see a missed call on their phone, what do? They call it back, right? Mm-hmm. Could that be the daughter calling back? So we don't have, these are no, grassy knoll questions. You know what I mean? These are questions that the investigators on this case know the answers to. We just don't have the information to this right now. But the big questions that we have, of course, is why? Why? And perhaps the answers to the why, Mike, are on these phones.
Maybe.
And that's what we want to hear is, why did he do this?
Billy, I'm looking at that video and I'm looking at the position of the sheriff, his head. He's concentrating on trying to kill the judge. No doubt in my mind, he wants to end that judge's life. Strangely, he doesn't seem to be distracted by the phone ringing. So at the time that the second group of shots are fired and the third group of shots are fired, as he's walking towards the door and he turns around and shoots the judge a few more times, as you say, the coup de grace, that was the coup de grace. I don't think he's even aware that the phone is ringing. You've been to the police academy range. If you're shooting, that's loud. And so he doesn't have any ear protection, and he's shooting in a really small room. Those are really loud shots. He may not even hear the phone ringing, or even if it was ringing, he might not have heard it, or maybe it was on vibrate and all it's doing is vibrating. But I'm not so sure that the callback was relevant. Something before the callback seemed to be what was weighing on Stein's mind. Now, this could be that there were a number of things that were troubling him for a while, and something to do with the phone was the straw that broke the camel's back. That's where I see it right now. But the phone ringing, or the call being calling the judge at that point, I think that is something that Mickey Steins wasn't even really aware of. I mean, you've drawn your firearm on people. I've drawn my firearm on people, and all you get that tunnel vision. When your blood is pumping, and I don't think he even could see really outside his range of view. It was pretty much a tunnel looking right at the judge, trying to kill that judge. But it's a good point. There's got to be something on those phones. That was something going on previously that I would like to see the other video, the earlier part of the video, and judge, as the defense attorney said, see the entire context. What was going on the moment that he walked into that office? Other people were there. They left. I want to see the entire thing before I'm going to give any kind of play to Steins in this case, because to me, it looks like cold-blooded murder.
100%. This is a statement from Mickey Steins' attorney.
Occurred in the heat of passion, magical words in the law. That takes a first degree premeditated down to manslaughter. Jeremy Bartley tells people, for us, the highest level of culpability should be manslaughter based on the partial defense of extreme emotional disturbance. I've gone through this. Check out my prior video in detail. Went through the extreme emotional disturbance element of manslaughter that takes the first degree, the most serious, facing the deep end, and brings it down to 10 to 20, which is still serious time. You got to do 85% of it. But it's much different than going to the row. It's much, much different. So that's kind of where he's leaning, right? This wasn't planned. So when we say it wasn't planned, and and we're looking at the way things broke down inside the room, our understanding is they're sitting down having the meeting.
I find it really difficult to believe that this wasn't planned. And it's amazing to me how quickly after this happened that this defense, the defense attorney came up with this defense. And to me, it's not really believable. Let me put this back up. This also is defense attorney.
From the judge's phone. The sheriff's calling his daughter from the judge's phone.
We believe there had to be a compelling reason for Sheriff Steins to feel like he had to take action, according to his defense attorney. We are looking forward to obtaining additional information and begin to tell his story. Tough to tell his story when there's video of him killing somebody, killing another human being on video. Tough to tell his story. 2 law enforcement sources have confirmed that former Sheriff Sean Mickey Steins did not select his daughter's number from a pre-saved list on District Judge Kevin Mullins' phone when he called her just prior to killing the judge. Both say Steins dialed the number before he shot Mullins multiple times in the judge's chambers behind the Letcher District courtroom. So that's a big thing. So they're saying 2 law enforcement sources are saying the number was not saved in Judge Mullins' phone. Rather, Sheriff Steins used his phone and dialed his daughter's number on his phone. So that's a huge thing. So could that say that, he was trying to find out if his daughter was in fact having some type of sort of illicit relationship with this judge?
Billy, thinking about it as we're analyzing it, I think the idea that the fact that, Mickey Steins' daughter's name was not in the list of contacts in the judge's phone pretty much negates the idea that the judge was having some sort of inappropriate relationship that was going on. Because if you're going to have an inappropriate relationship with somebody, you're going to have their contact in your phone number. So I think that actually the fact that that number was not saved as a contact in the judge's phone actually hurts the defense, because it shows that there is probably not a pre-existing inappropriate relationship. Now, it could be also that the Steins and the Mullenses are very close. They're friends. They may all have each other's phone number, and maybe she might have, if she called back, she may have recognized. She may have been busy, but recognized that that the incoming call came from Judge Mullins and was calling it back. But we'll find out more. But yeah, I think it'd be a miracle. But I think the most that the defense could hope for in this case would be a manslaughter conviction. He's not, going to be acquitted.
No way.
You could take that. No, absolutely not.
Tiffany
100%.
Zoe from the chat, I like this. Don't trust your soul to no backwoods Southern lawyer, because the judge in the
Good,
town's
good
got
song.
bloodstains on his hands. Reminds me of that Reba McEntire song. Yeah, I recognize that song right
Yeah.
away.
Right, it's an oldie.
Yeah, it's an oldie. I don't know if, I'm sure there's many people. This is a small town, right? I'm sure many people in this town have all the dirt, know all the dirt going on in this town. We don't, being from outside of this, but we're amazed at just what we've seen here. This little seemingly dispute, a meeting in the judge's chambers with the sheriff, who's one of his best friends. And he fires 8 shots at him in the way that we've watched and kills the man. Just very, very difficult to understand. Sheriff's lawyers state, we believe that to be a compelling reason for Sheriff Steins to feel like he had to take action. We are looking forward to obtaining additional information and begin to tell his story. His story. I mean, what could his story be? I don't know if he could have a story that will satisfy anyone. That there's no saying this is okay in any stretch of the imagination. Oh yes, this wasn't self-defense.
No.
I mean, even the story about someone was kidnapping my family. That's, was it an immediate danger that was happening to you or your family? Can you prove that? Very difficult to understand from the perspective of even the defense of Sheriff Steins, how he could even expect to defend himself from this.
Yeah, Billy, they talk about compelling. He was compelled to take action. Okay, you could be compelled to take action if you feel overwhelmed. It could be something like you're going to scream at the judge, throw a fist, that sort of thing, curse him out, push him, whatever it happens to be. But compelled to actually shoot him and actually hunt him down in the office, firing a number of rounds at him, and as you say, deliver the coup de grace. What is so compelling that would be an appropriate response? I want to hear it. I haven't heard it yet. So I think that his best chance for manslaughter is a change of venue, get it to a big city where there may be a lot of other people, like what's the capital of what's the capital? I'm not even sure what the capital of Kentucky is. But something like that. Some other big city where you don't have all this other stuff going on in the background. But I'm not sure where the defense attorney is coming from. I think he's just trying to do the best he can and look at anything he could possibly get in the light most favorable to the client, and let the public know, where we have a defense here. You'll know later on, but believe me, everyone, we have the defense. That's what I think it really is right now, because he really knows what the facts are. All he's really waiting for is the phone call records of the judge's phone or something like that, because his own client can tell him what his own phone messages are. So I don't know how he's got a lot of room to go with this case, left, right, backwards, forwards. I don't know.
The only thing that they could possibly say is almost like a temporary insanity, and I don't see that.
Walks around to the left side. Exactly. The judge literally trying to get cover in the corner, and once again, the gun is fired a second time. Now, you can see the judge is crawling under the table, is still alive, and then he crouches down and fires the.
To me, that's the most disturbing, that shot when he's about to leave the office and he
Right.
realizes that the judge is still alive because he sees the desk move. And he turns and leans down and fires the coup de grace, as we call it, to make sure that the judge was dead. I think when a jury sees that, they won't even want to hear about the manslaughter nonsense because he had time to think about what he was doing. This whole video, I think, was about 25 seconds long, they said, in which he fired 8 shots.
Right.
And as he's leaving, it wasn't enough. 7, he had to make it an 8th, and he had to the coup de grace shot that undoubtedly, put the nail in the judge's coffin and killed him. So I cannot see, based on what we're watching there, that any jury would say, oh, yes, he must have been temporarily insane, extreme emotional disturbance, depraved mind. They're not going to buy that bullshit. That's an attorney, a clever attorney, trying to immediately come up with a defense that can explain this video. Claudia Lanza Stouffer, I got it. Thank you for the £5 super stick. I think in his rage, he didn't care if he was caught, that he thought he needed to protect his daughter from the judge because of something. Claudia, you very well may be correct with that. And again, when we started off this show today, we said no one knows the why, except perhaps the investigators that are closest to this case, and they're not releasing that yet. The why is not yet out there, which is usually, you have the when, the where, the who, the what, and the how, but the why, we don't have the why here. We don't motive. Everyone wants to know the motive, yet the motive is not a necessary component to convict someone of murder. It's not a necessary component, but we, the people that are following this, all want to know what the hell why did he do this? That's what everyone wants to know.
The gun for a 3rd round of shots. Now you know why the reaction was what it was inside that courtroom from the judge's family. Walks around to the left side. The judge literally trying to get cover in the corner. And once again, the gun is fired a 2nd time. Now you can see the judge is crawling under the table, is still alive, and then he crouches down and fires the gun for a 3rd round of shots. Now you know why the reaction was what it was inside that courtroom from the judge's family. The wails that we heard coming from, because they saw it. They saw it without the video pausing and stopping. But these are 2 men in a situation. We don't have any audio. We don't know what they're saying. We don't know the conversation. So that brings me to my first question of this investigation. Since we don't have the audio, what does their body language reveal?
I'm not going to go into that because I think that, clearly the body language here was he's killing him. He's shooting to kill him. And the judge's body language is, I'm trying to stay alive. I'm trying to hide. I don't need some body language expert to analyze what their body language is here. I think we all know it. Candace Breeze, law cares about what was going through your head at the time of the crime and before and after. No, you're absolutely right. When we talk about culpable mental states of mind. And when I used to teach criminal justice, I used to use the acronym RIC, recklessly, intentionally, criminally, negligently, and knowingly. And those were the 4 culpable states of mind. So what was the culpable mental state of mind for Judge Steins? Sheriff Steins. And what I would say is knowingly and intentionally. Both of those. No criminal negligence, no recklessness. Recklessness can be part of manslaughter. This was intentionally and knowingly he took the life of this judge. So in culpable mental states of mind, yes, intentionally and knowingly. Mike, your thoughts, since you have a law degree. I'm just an amateur.
No, I agree 100%. Because remember, he walked into that room. Everybody else left. They sat down. They were talking. He stood up, drew his firearm, stood up, and kind of over the judge. The judge really, you could see the look on his surprise on his face. He had the cigarette. He was not expecting that. Whatever that was going on, maybe there was some harsh words exchanged. He was not expecting that. And so he's already stood up. He's already drawn his service pistol. He's aiming it now at the judge, firing a couple shots. Again, if there was one shot that just fired into the ceiling out of frustration, I'd be like, okay, he's overwhelmed. He hunted the guy down. And as you said, he delivered the coup de grace as he's walking out the door. That shows someone in complete control of their faculties at that point. He's finishing the job. I'm sorry, as much as I like to be, a defense attorney sometimes looking at things and trying to figure out, but the mental state is there. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's aware of his actions, and he's desiring a particular result. And that particular result is the death of the Judge Mullins at that moment. So absolutely, that listener is 100% correct. It's all about the criminal intent.
Candace, again, I'm going to give you star billing here. Candace Breeze. Jury only have to deal with, did you do this and was it premeditated? Yeah, and I think it's I think it is. And did he do it? There's videotape of him doing it. There's tape. Tim Collins from the chat. Maybe that's why, because they were gonna ruin Mickey. That could be the why. Was he going to get ruined over this case of the Deputy Fields?
Yeah.
That lawsuit, that civil lawsuit, and was the judge party to that in some way? That's an interesting thing, and we could perhaps hear more about that as this case proceeds. Lazika, it's on the front page of the newspaper. I'm looking at it now. See you later from the chat. I like that name. The Astro from space, they play with little girls in that county to do the research family. Well, we don't have any proof to that, so we can't make those allegations. Lizika, see you later. It only says he did not dial from a saved number. He dialed the number himself. Doing that would be the quickest way to find out if the number was saved under anything. Very good point. And I think that the fact that he dialed the number and it wasn't saved in the judge's phone, that makes me feel a little bit better. I don't know how it makes everyone else feel, but everyone's looking for this nefarious relationship between Judge Mullins and Sheriff Stein's daughter, his 17-year-old daughter. So far, we don't have any concrete evidence of that, but a lot of aspersions, I'll put it that way. Mike?
Yeah, Billy, I bet you that there's a lot of people in Letcher County who have a lot more background information than, Vinnie Politan, you or I, or anyone else. But until there's the defense inputs raises the defense, whatever it's going to be, whatever that defense is, what's it based on, the alibi, we won't know for sure. But we don't want to speculate and stuff that is, speculate to the point where, we're going way, maybe perhaps way out in left field. We want to stick with the facts. So that's the hardest part, is that these facts are so sparse at this time that makes it really difficult. But I'm always trying to figure out, let's look at what objectively do we know, not what we may think subjectively maybe in somebody's head, but objectively look at something, look at the video objectively, look at the timing objectively, everything occurred in a context. So, that minute, the hour previously, the day previously, those 3 or 4 days, even further, and maybe it goes back even further. But unfortunately, we don't know. That's the maddening part. We see everything else, the who, what, where, when, how. We just don't know the why. And that's what makes this case really difficult to take, to figure out what's going on.
Joanne W. Yeah, we mentioned, wasn't there a recent case? Yeah, we mentioned that there's a civil lawsuit based on a deputy named Fields Benfields, who was under Sheriff Stein's under his supervision, and he was doing some SA inside the judge's chambers, Judge Mullins' chambers, and he went to prison. And now the civil lawsuit is fully in bloom right now, and Judge Steins, excuse me, Sheriff Steins, I keep mixing up the names. Sheriff Steins was listed as a plaintiff in that case. So that could be part of this too. We don't know. We don't know the bigger story of the why, and that this all could be part of this very big story. This, I've seen a lot of shootings. I've seen live murders. I've seen all of that stuff in my police career, hundreds of shootings and the results of the shootings. This was a disturbing shooting, really, to watch for anyone, and to realize that these two were friends, and a friend that shoots and murders another, his friend. What was, the extreme emotional disturbance he was going through that allowed him to take his friend's life, Mike?
Yeah, there has to be something so overwhelming that he could not, he had to resort to a use of a firearm. So it could be, we've seen in the police department, internal affairs investigations, and police officers could turn on each other and say things and talk. And it's really, detrimental to the morale. We call people to do that rats. And, you hear about the blue wall of silence and things like that. And it does exist to a certain degree. Absolutely. And, it does. And everybody knows that. But, a betrayal by a fellow officer, a fellow law enforcement officer is one thing. But to actually use the opportunity to kill that person, hunt them down in their office, I really don't think, unless there is something that is totally way out there that nobody's thinking about right now, I can't see where the defense has any real way of going to showing something so immediate, so overwhelming, that it overwhelms the Mickey Stein's ability to deal with it, to the point where he feels he needs to take out his firearm and kill someone who he's known for several decades. I don't see it. I don't know what could possibly it could be, but I don't see it. And he better hope that Judge Steins, Mickey Steins, can get up on the stand, or someone else can get up on the stand and explain why he felt that he had no other choice but to kill the judge at that time, that he couldn't do anything else but kill him. I don't know. I don't see it.
No, me either. Joanne W. from the chat, what's it called? A crime of passion. Well, that's
right.
What the defense wants to call it. What the prosecution wants to call it is a straight up premeditated murder, first degree. Don't forget, he murdered a judge right in the judge's chambers. Most jurisdictions won't find that amusing, and I say that very facetiously, but they will add that onto the penalty of doing that. So, folks, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button on the screen. I see a lot of new people in the chat. Welcome to Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. We're going to stay with this case as it proceeds. There's a lot of questions out there that need to be answered. Many of the questions, I know from being an investigator, from being involved in cases, that the investigators know a lot of the answers to the questions that we're asking, and the other content creators on YouTube, even Vinnie Politan, he doesn't know everything either. He's getting fed stuff, but the investigators closest to this case, they know the why. By now, they know the why. And hopefully we'll get to know the why sooner than later. But these cases never move forward quickly. It's going to take some time. But it is, when we watch that video of Sheriff Steins shooting Judge Mullins, it's a disturbing video to watch. Mike, your final thoughts.
Patience is a virtue and everyone should exercise patience, and don't start believing all kinds of things that may be colorful and really blood curdling or whatever it happens to be. No, stick with the objective facts that we have, and as anything else comes in, that you tune into the station and we'll play them. But yeah, don't go down rabbit holes and thinking that sort of thing. Just take it as one day at a time, as what you see, what is absolutely objective that we know of, and stay away from the sensational stuff.
Absolutely. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in this early evening tonight. I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. On behalf of myself and Professor Mike Geary, have a great rest of your night, and God bless everyone.
One episode just ain't enough.